Okay. So yesterday we saw the introduction to microservices, right? So now you guys understand why monolithic architecture is good and why microservice architecture is good, right? You guys are able to differentiate between monolithic and microservices. Now help me with one question. Before yesterday's session and prior to this, you must have heard, right? Microservices is good, and in all the system design interview, you will go ahead and write down the design from the microservice perspective, right? So why exactly that is a pattern, and all are willing to go towards the microservice architecture? Can anyone answer that question? And especially why, especially in the system design interviews, people tend to go with the microservice architecture rather than the monolithic one? Anyone wants to try? Okay. So in system design, probably whenever they ask you to design any of the systems, they have few of the hidden requirements, right? Yeah, flexibility, because they expect a lot of traffic, but traffic is not only the deciding factor there, and probably you can add multiple other properties, right? You can add more and more functional requirement in that particular system. So the system should be flexible enough to plug new feature, and that's why generally the people used to go over the microservice architecture in those scenarios, right? And many a times it has happened in the past as well. Many companies are moving from monolithic to microservice just to cater that particular use case, because their system are now growing complex and they just need to plug out few of the components. So now let's take about this, right? Earlier you had some bunch of components here and written in multiple modules, right? So there was one of this module A, right, who was good friend with each other, right? Now what happened? Some evil architect, what he did, he separated both these guys, right? Now this particular person is sitting here, okay, and this guy is sitting here, right? So let's suppose this is sitting here and this is sitting here. Earlier they were happy, so earlier they were both happy, now they are both sad, right? Because they can't talk to each other. He don't know about his friend, right? Now what can happen? How these two services can interact with each other? Earlier they used to interact just by a method call, like they were near to each other and they could easily invoke each other, but now they are not able to invoke each other, right? So how will solve this problem? How he will come to know your friend is sitting in this particular place, right? There needs to be some way to tell yeah, your friend is there, right? Then only he will be able to call his friend, right? Now one of the approach where, just let's suppose this is a bill pay service, okay, and let's suppose this is payment service, right? So probably what you can do, you can hard code the instance in this, right? Say it is sitting at location, let's suppose 1, okay, or IP of something like this, and with this he will be able to call, right? You have hard coded the IP address of this particular instance, okay, and he is able to call. Now suddenly one day he tries to call and he is not able to get a response. What can be the reason? This has changed its IP address. Probably it has changed its location. New instance might have come in place of it, right? So that's why it is not able to call that particular service or get the response. So what can we do in this particular case? We need some mechanism of figuring out where the particular service is live, right? Where the instances are live. So there can be two of the ways, right? One way is, let's suppose you want to order pizza, right? So if you want to order pizza, what you will do? Anyone? Pizza order करने के लिए क्या करोगे? Either you will type on Google कि nearest Domino's or nearest Pizza Hut. You will get a phone number and then you will dial out to that particular number, right? This you'll do? Yes or no? Yes. The other can be, you will directly call the customer support agent, okay, and say, I want to order a pizza, okay, this is my address, okay, and you figure out from which store you need to place the order, right? Probably you don't need to tell him him or her the address, store address. You will just tell your address, and he will be able to find the nearest store and will be able to directly place your order on your behalf, right? And the other can be you search on Google, found out the store number, and directly call the store, right? Now in this scenario, what is different? In the first scenario, when you are searching on Google, okay, and then finding out the store number and then calling, who is doing the heavy lifting here? Who is doing the job of finding that particular instance? You or that customer support agent? You, right? So, and who is the client here? You, right? Because you need to order a pizza. So in this particular case, the client is doing a heavy lifting of finding where the instance is, right? Now, this will be called a client side discovery. Discovery is what? Finding that particular service, right? Where that particular service is sitting. And the client side is because the client is doing the heavy lifting of finding that particular service and then calling it. Now, in the other approach, what you did, you just call the service representative, customer support agent, and said, okay, this is my address. You go and figure out which is store near to me and place the order from there, right? So in this case, you are just propagating your request, and that customer support agent is taking care of where that particular what store is near to you and ordering from there, right? So in this particular case, who is taking care of finding the relevant store? The server, right? Or the client support in this case. So it is server side discovery. Server side discovery. Now, इसमें तो बोला कि ठीक है, ये पिज्जा वाला एग्जांपल था, तो probably we have found the address or the service customer support agent has given us the address. But how it will look like in a system, right? In a system, how it will look like. So in this particular case, it was client side service discovery that we got. But who is actually giving us the option of discovery? From where we are finding the information? In the first case, who was giving us this information? Google, right? Google was giving us the option. You just need to type on your query that find the nearest pizza store, okay? And it will give you the contact details of the nearest pizza store. So who had the configuration of all the pizza stores? This Google, right? It has maintained some kind of a registry where it has all the information of all kind of shops, right? So in this case, it was Google. In second case, when you call the service customer support agent, they had maintained a database of their own. Domino's, let's suppose, have their own database, and it knows in this particular case which all stores are live, right? So from there he can figure out. So they have some kind of registry maintained, or in this particular case it was Google who was maintaining that registry, right? Clear till here? Any problem with this? Client side and service side क्या है, ये clear हुआ? What is client side discovery and the server side discovery? No. Yes. Okay. So I'll try again. Okay. Let's suppose this is client A, right? And let's suppose this is some kind of a server. So you are calling that particular server, okay, to give me address of service B, right? And let's suppose service B is sitting here. So you are calling that particular server to give me address of service B. This server returns you the address of service B. Address of service B. Now, based up with that particular address, you call that service B, right? So the first step is you call the one of the servers to give me the address of service B. The server returns an address of server B where it is located. Okay, probably the list of addresses because there can be multiple instances. And now based upon that address, you are calling one of the instance of service B, right? So in this case, who is doing the call? This client only is doing the call, right? And he is just asking for the address of the service from, let's suppose, one of the server, right? So who is doing the job of getting the address and calling that particular service? Client, right? So that's why it is known as client side discovery. And we'll come to know what this service is called. How does it store server B address? Does it keep any mapping? Yes. So first, just go through the concept of client side and the service side, and then we'll come to this particular part, which is the discovery server. First, I'm trying to explain what is client side discovery and what is server side discovery, and then I'll cover this particular point as well. What is discovery server? So is client side discovery clear? In the client side discovery, client just asks for the address, okay, and with that particular address, client calls that other service. And what could happen in a server side discovery, right? So in server side discovery, client A will call the server and say कि क्या करना है तुमको, call B, right? I don't know where the server B is. You just take this input and call B. I don't know anything, okay? This particular server will figure out, okay, server B is sitting here, okay, service B is sitting here. I only need to call him. I don't need to return a result to client A with the address. Probably I'll call client B, okay, and probably I can give him the final response what B said. So this will be server side discovery. Server side discovery and client side discovery is clear? Okay. Now let's focus on this middle portion, right? Where we called call this particular service and give me the address, right? We are calling this particular service. So now let's suppose there is this service, right? Or a server for now, okay? And client A is calling this particular server, right? And getting the response of the addresses of the service, right? So now this server or this service needs to store the information of all the microservices or all the services, right? There can be service C, service D, and so on, right? And it needs to create some kind of a mapping of all the services. Let's suppose service B is sitting here, service C is sitting here, service D is sitting here, and these all are instances that are up for that particular service, right? If this particular service stores this kind of information, okay, and based upon that mapping that this particular guy has, if it can serve the request of any of the inquiry request, this is called a discovery server. So what is discovery server? Discovery server is someone who keeps track of all the microservices, where they are up, how many instances probably are up, and what all informations we require for that. And whenever some client asks, probably he will return with the relevant information, right? Probably with the address. So this particular server is called the discovery server, right? And in a server side discovery, okay, server side discovery pattern, this particular server will only be responsible for calling as well. So अगर ये client side discovery होता, so in this particular case, this server has only the responsibility of storing the information about all these microservices and returning whenever some client invokes for the address, right? And in server side discovery, this particular server has the responsibility of storing that mapping as well as calling the relevant services, right? Is this point clear? Any confusion till here? मतलब कुछ भी क्लियर नहीं है या कुछ पार्ट क्लियर है? Where all are facing difficulty? Well, I'll take that topic again. ठीक है, अगर किसी पार्ट में दिक्कत है या I take the center. No confusion. किसी और को कोई दिक्कत? You guys are so silent today. मतलब या तो कुछ नहीं समझ में आ रहा है या सब समझ में आ रहा है. Okay. It can't happen. Everything is clear. There should be some room of error. Okay. Now, earlier we saw a use case, right? Where LB was there, right? Load balancer. And what was the role of this load balancer? What was the role of this load balancer?
To route the traffic.
To route the traffic.
Redirect traffic.
To redirect traffic. Now, earlier we saw, okay, this particular load balancer is routing the traffic of one of the microservice, okay, to the multiple instance, right? A microservice के 3 instance है, so it was routing that particular traffic to all the servers, right? Now, if I say, hey load balancer, I am giving you one more responsibility, right? And what responsibility I am giving you? If the request is starting from, let's suppose, bill pay, okay, you are trying, you need to divert this traffic to this particular servers, okay? If the probably payment, okay, you need to route the traffic to group of B microservices, right? Can I delegate this particular task to load balancer? Or even if we don't call it load balancer, probably can we create one kind of a service which will do this particular job? Based upon the request parameter, either it is a bill pay or it is a payment, it will decide which group to invoke and which instance of that particular group. Can we build something like this? Can we build the service like this? Yes, right? Any confusion in this? Can we build? Yes or no?
Yes, we can build.
Okay. Earlier, the load balancer were what we saw the use case. Load balancer was transferring the request between one kind of a request only. All the bill pay requests is what distributing towards the services instances of service A. Now, probably based upon that request path, it is diverting to different microservices as well, right? So probably Amazon ELB also does same kind of a job, right? Now, ELB has those parameters. You can configure the path. Amazon ELB is Elastic Load Balancer, and there are new kind of a load balancer available with AWS services. And based upon that path, you can route the traffic, right? So what do you think? It is a server-side discovery or a client-side discovery? Out of that two, server-side discovery and the client-side discovery, what it was or what it is? Try server side. Anyone else? Monica, you want to explain why server side discovery, or anyone wants to try why server side discovery?
Actually, once the service is reaching the ELB, so ELB is doing the task of direction.
Correct.
So I think it should be server side.
Yeah. So here is your client. The client is just calling the ELB with the parameters and let's suppose path, bill pay. Okay. And the ELB is deciding which microservice is need to call and which instance of that particular service, right? So all the heavy lifting this particular ELB is doing, right? And the client is just calling. So client is not aware where A is sitting, like where bill pay service is sitting, whether the payment service is sitting, how many instances are up. All these things are taken care by this ELB, right? So this is a server side discovery. Server side discovery. And this is one of the most important thing in the microservice architecture, because we need to have some kind of a service discovery, right? Else we'll not be knowing which instances to call and all those things, right? Because there will be multiple instances that will be keep on adding, and there will be instances that will be probably it will get lost, right? And the IPs also dynamically get assigned. So we need to have some kind of mechanism of storing the configuration and the routing the request accordingly. Now, let's suppose take the other example. This is a Eureka service. So Netflix Eureka, right? So Netflix is one of the pioneer in microservices architecture. So if there will be some kind of award for the microservice architecture, probably that will go to Netflix. Netflix has done some tremendous work in this microservice architecture, and many patterns Netflix has created and made it outsourced. So Eureka was one which was earlier getting used at Netflix. Now it is open source with Spring Cloud. So Spring Cloud is the place where all the many of the patterns are already available, and many of these tools are already available. like the probably Eureka service, Joule, and there are multiple others. So Eureka is also a service discovery. Okay. So what you do in Eureka, you just install Eureka client. Okay. This is dependency, and you create a microservice. Now, so you have made a microservice. This is also a microservice only. In its own, it is also a microservice, and it is connecting with other microservice as well. Let's see the example. You deployed the Eureka server dependency, okay, and you made this Eureka server, okay, and all those client or all those microservice, let's suppose this is bill pay, this is payment, right? These all will have a dependency of Eureka client, okay, Eureka client. And all these microservices, when they will be up, they will be communicating with the Eureka server and register themselves, so that whenever new microservice wants to inquire, okay, he will just ask this Eureka server, hey, give me the address for this bill pay service, okay, and he will give you some kind of a address list, and probably you can choose whom to call, right? And probably you can do probably you can change the pattern as per your need, but this can be one of the architecture where you are calling the Eureka server, getting the list of instances, and then calling, or figuring out which all microservices are up. As soon as a new microservice gets up with Eureka client, okay, it registers with Eureka server, okay. So Eureka server has information about all those microservices that are sitting here. So any microservice can go ahead and inquire about the other microservice, and he needs not to have the information stored. Okay, any problem in this? Does this act as a DNS lookup? Kind of a DNS lookup is exactly like a service discovery where you are looking for the server, and it has all the information, relevant information about the domain names. Any follow-up question, Abhinav? Okay, cool. Now let's take two smaller concepts. Okay, this is just a straightforward concept that we wanted to talk. Okay, the first one is rate limiter. So rate limiter, as the name suggests, you need to limit out the rate, right? Let's suppose this is a service, okay, and let's suppose this is calling any of the other services. Let's suppose this is a some kind of a government service, right, or external service you can call, right? External service, and you must have some contract with the external service, right? I'll allow you to give me at max 100 TPS request, right? And now you have a client sitting here, okay, and the requests are passing through the LBs, coming to your services, multiple instances, and you are calling this external architecture, right? So let's suppose you are calling with you have taken a contract of 100 TPS. On a normal day, your traffic is at max 50 TPS, so you are calling the services 50 TPS, right? It's still fine because you have a contract of 100 TPS, right? Now on a single day, a hacker tries to do, hey, I think probably let's try to break the system. So even if your system is highly scalable, okay, what it will do, it will bombard the request, okay? It will bombard the request. This is also called DOS, right? DOS attack. Actually, we'll cover that later, okay? So for now, let's take the example. This particular hacker is just bombarding the request here, right? So all the requests are coming to these microservices. These all instances, they are already very highly scalable. If they need, probably they can make another instance up as per the auto scaling rule already configured. But they will be hitting this particular service, that is external service. Earlier it was 50 TPS. Let's suppose the hacker has created 10x traffic. Now it will go to 500 TPS. The next day, okay, this particular service goes down. Okay. And there are other clients who were accessing this particular service, right? For them also this particular service went down. So this service, okay, what he did, he carried out an investigation. What actually went wrong with our system? And after investigation, they found out that this is the culprit who have configured for 100 TPS but is calling with 500 TPS, and because of this, our services went down, right? So probably they can sue us as well, right? Can they sue us for this particular cause? Yes or no? Okay, probably they can sue us, right? But even if they don't sue us, it will be a challenge, right? You have configured for 100 TPS and you are calling with 500 TPS. This is absolutely wrong, right? So in this particular cases, whenever you are calling external client, you need to limit your rate, okay? That my rate won't exceed this 100 TPS no matter what it goes, right? And probably as soon as it is reaching that particular limit, okay, you are throttling the request of your client, okay? It can be a genuine request, it can be a request originating from a hacker, whatever it can be, but you can't call the external services with that load. So somehow you need to gracefully exit this request and return the response. Either you are not able to process this request or some other thing, right? And when you see the traffic is from a legitimate user, probably you can talk about talk with this service and try to extend this limit from 100 TPS to, let's suppose, 500 TPS or something like this, right? But in the first go, you anyhow need to limit to at max traffic. So this is also known as rate limiter. So sometimes these discovery services can also act as a rate limiter. Zool is one of the discovery service introduced by Netflix only. This can also act as a rate limiter, and you can implement your own rate limiter, right? Probably wherever you are calling, with each of the call, probably you will give a break of some seconds, or probably whatever mechanism you can take care of, right? But that was the overall concept of the rate limiter. And why it is important? Especially when you are calling an external service, you need to be extra cautious from the limiting perspective. So you need to enable rate limiting anyhow. If this is an internal service, probably it can work. Probably you need to have a rate limit in internal services as well. But with internal services, it might be okay. Okay. Once you breach the request, they are not going to sue you, right? Probably it will be just kind of escalation. But for all the external services, it's always advisable to go with the rate limiting. Any problem in rate limiter? Yeah, Ashi, any question?
Yes, I'm having one doubt. Like when the limit will reach, then only we will check that what kind of request it is, like it is valid or not.
No.
Or like we can check from the starting only.
Okay. When you have configured the max threshold, so imagine it is a kind of a you have known this funnel, right? This kind of a
Yes.
funnel. So let's suppose from here the traffic is pouring into your website, and this is a funnel.
Okay.
Okay. You need to limit the request, okay, to the external service. So it may happen sometime you need to throttle some of the request. And probably
Yes.
it can result, probably some of the legitimate user can receive this particular throttle request, right? You have not given the proper responses. But
Okay.
let's suppose you have configured 100 TPS, you have taken the permission, and normal traffic is 50 TPS, right? So suddenly if it is going from 50 TPS to 500 TPS, there are high chances that something is wrong. Someone is trying to just scoop around your system and just bombarding the request with. And if you are just observing
Yes.
it is a natural pattern, you can talk with this client, increase this 100 TPS limit to, let's suppose, 500 TPS, and configure at your end, okay, I will allow till 500 TPS. But
Okay.
just whenever we are calling external service, it's always better to go with a rate limiting kind of a concept. And rate limiting can be enabled at any level. It can be enabled at the service discovery level, right? When we have the probably it can configure at the LV level, or it can enable in your client side code. Anywhere it can be enabled.
Okay. And we will check the threshold value only.
Yeah, so probably if you are enabling from the client side, probably you don't know because there are multiple instances, right? So
Yes.
let's suppose collectively you need to reach 50 TPS, right? So you will say, I'll go with 15 TPS, 15 TPS, 15 TPS, right? But probably
Okay.
this service has this particular server has a lot many requests than this, right? So this will be a problem. So it's always better to enable the rate limiting at a central place. Probably it can be at a service discovery level or some other places that you can enable.
Okay. And if it will be at client discovery level, then the client will be informed that that threshold is reached.
In this particular case, client needs to be aware ki how to do that particular integration, right? If it is a client-side integration, the service discovery
Yeah.
server is only giving you the instances, right?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the service discovery can give you instances only of the internal services, not the external services, right?
Yes.
Probably
Okay.
that you might have configured ki this endpoint you need to call, right? Let's suppose this is Amazon site, okay? And from Amazon you need to call XYZ, right? So they might have given you one kind of a IP, right? Or an address where you will call, to which endpoint you will call.
Okay.
So this particular client already knows ki whom to call. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. The next concept is probably the circuit breaker. It's just a small concept. Okay. And after that we'll pause. So circuit breaker. Okay. Earlier we used to say ki you need to do multiple retries, right? Ki if the call fails, you need to retry. You need to retry multiple times. You need to retry with the exponential backup. So exponential backup is probably now you are calling with interval of 1 second, then 3 seconds, then 8 second kind of a thing, right? And probably the max retry you can configure to be 5, 10 or whatever number you want, right? But in most of the cases, what it was happening, why you think you need to retry that particular call, right? There was something terribly wrong with the service that you are calling, right? That's why you need to do the retry. So let's suppose service A and service B. It has called service B. It didn't give the response in time, right? And it retried. So why do you think it didn't give the response in time? Probably it can be an intermittent issue, a small issue, or let's suppose service B is down or service B is suffering from high traffic, right? Now, if this is a intermittent traffic, probably you can retry immediately once, okay, and you can get the response. But if it is serving very high traffic and it is not able to process the request, again you will call, again it will fail, again you will call, again it will fail, right? Now, in this particular case, service B was already struggling with very high traffic, and you are still bombarding the service B with all the requests, right? So the chances of service B getting up will be very limited, right? Because service B is not getting time to recover from that, right? If you will give service B some time and cut off all the requests from here, okay, service B will say, okay, now I'm not getting any fresh request. Let me process my old request and then I'll up and running, right? And once I'm up and running, then I'll be able to process the request, right? So in these cases, one of the pattern that originated, instead of continue calling the service B, whenever you have seen, let's suppose 10% of the failures in last 5 minutes, and these all configuration you can do from your side. So if you are seeing 10% of the fails in 5 minutes, probably what you will do, you will open the circuit, or probably you can configure this limit to, let's suppose 50% or 60%. So if 60% of the request is filling in this 5 minutes, okay, or this last 1 minute, what you will do, you will open the circuit. So what is opening the circuit? In this particular case, service A and service B. You have seen this diagram in switch, right? If it is connected with this, the circuit is complete. If this is not connected, circuit is open. What it means, service A will not be calling service B in these cases and will gracefully return the response from here that I am not able to process the request that you are asking me for. Okay. Or if it has some default logic, probably it will return that default logic. Instead of calling B, it will directly cut off that particular call and directly give the response from here only. Either it is filling that request, doing the graceful exit, or if there is some default mechanism implemented, it will do that. Now, how it will come to know that service B is now up? He will try to call the service B, let's suppose for 5% of the request. Okay. out of that 100% of request, it is calling service B with 5% of the request and checking, is it still down or is it still rejecting the request? If it is still rejecting the request, it will continue to keep the circuit open. If we found out that yeah, B has come up and it is able to process all the requests, it will close that circuit, okay, and the request will flow as it was usual, right? And so there are some concept like open circuit, half closed. So half closed can be when there is a limited number of failures. Full close is matlab, full close is when everything is fine. Half open will be when few of the requests are failing, and it is completely open when you have identified that the service B has some serious problem with. Clear with this concept?